The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. Chapter 1. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. But with a sound self confidence, you can succeed. A sense of inferiority and inadequacy interferes with the attainment of your hopes, but self confidence leads to self realization and successful achievement. Because of the importance of this mental attitude, this book will help you in believing in yourself and releasing your inner powers. It is appalling to realize the number of pathetic people who are hampered and made miserable by the malady popularly called the inferiority complex. But you need not suffer from this trouble. When proper steps are taken, it can be overcome. You can develop creative faith in yourself, faith that is justified. After speaking to a convention of businessmen in a city auditorium, I was on the stage greeting people when a man approached me and with a peculiar intensity of manner asked, "May I talk with you about a matter of desperate importance to me?" I asked him to remain until the others had gone. Then we went backstage and sat down. "I'm in this town to handle the most important business deal of my life," he explained. "If I succeed, it means everything to me. If I fail, I'm done for." I suggested that he relaxed a little, that nothing was quite that final. If he succeeded, that was fine. If he didn't, well, tomorrow was another day. "I have a terrible disbelief in myself," he said dejectedly. "I have no confidence. I just don't believe I can put it over. I am very discouraged and depressed. In fact," he lamented, "I'm just about sunk. Here I am, 40 years old. Why is it that all my life I've been tormented by inferiority feelings, by lack of confidence, by self doubt? I listened to your speech tonight in which you talked about the power of positive thinking, and I want to ask, how can I get some faith in myself?" "There are two steps to take," I replied. "First, it is important to discover why you have those feelings of no power. That requires analysis and will take time. We must approach the maladies of our emotional life as a physician probes to find something wrong physically. This cannot done be immediately, certainly not in our brief interview tonight, and it may require treatment to reach a permanent solution. But to pull you through this immediate problem, I shall give you a formula which will work if you use it. As you walk down the street tonight, I suggest that you repeat certain words which I shall give you. Say them over several times after you get into your bed. When you awaken tomorrow, repeat them 3 times before rising. On the way to your important appointment, say them 3 additional times. Do this with an attitude of faith and you'll receive sufficient strength and ability to deal with this problem. Later, if you wish, we can go into an analysis of your basic problem. But whatever we come up with following that study, the formula which I am now giving to you will be a large factor in the eventual cure. Following is the affirmation which I gave him. I can do all things through Christ which strengthened me. Philippians 4:13. He was unfamiliar with these words, so I read them on a card and had him read them over 3 times aloud. Now follow that prescription and I am sure things will come out all right. He pulled himself up, stood quietly for a moment, then said with considerable feeling, "Okay, doctor, okay." I watched him square his shoulders and walk out into the night. He seemed a pathetic figure, and yet the way he carried himself as he disappeared showed that fate was already at work in his mind. Subsequently, he reported that this simple formula did wonders for him, and added, "It seems incredible that a few words from the Bible could do so much for a person." This man later had a study made of the reasons for his inferiority attitude. They were cleared away by scientific counseling and by the application of religious faith. He was taught how to have faith, was given certain specific instructions to follow. Gradually, he attained a strong, steady, reasonable confidence. He never ceased to express amazement at the way in which things now flow toward rather than away from him. His personality has taken on a positive, not negative character so that he no longer repels success, but on the contrary, draws it to him. He now has an authentic confidence in his own powers. There are various causes of inferiority feelings, and a few stem from childhood. An executive consulted me about a young man whom he wished to advance in his company. But, he explained, he cannot be trusted with important secret information, and I'm sorry, for otherwise I would make him my administrative assistant. He has all the other necessary qualifications, but he talks too much, and without meaning to do so, divulges matters of a private and important nature. Upon analysis, I found that he talked too much simply because of an inferiority feeling. To compensate for it, he succumbed to the temptation of parading his knowledge. He associated with men who were rather well to do, all of whom had attended college and belonged to a fraternity. But this boy was reared in poverty, had not been a college man or fraternity member. Thus, he felt himself inferior to his associates in education and social background. To build himself up in his associates and to enhance his self esteem, his subconscious mind, which always seeks to provide a compensatory mechanism, supplied him with a means for raising his ego. He was on the inside in the industry and accompanied his superior to conferences where he met outstanding men and listened to important private conversation. He reported just enough of his inside information to cause his associates to regard him with admiration and envy. This served to elevate his self esteem and satisfy his desire for recognition. When the employer became aware of the cause of this personality trait, being a kindly and understanding man, he pointed out to the young man the opportunities in business to which his abilities could lead him. He also described how his inferiority feelings caused his unreliability in confidential matters. This self knowledge, together with a sincere practicing of the techniques of faith and prayer, made him a valuable asset to his company. His real powers were released. I can perhaps illustrate the manner in which many youngsters acquire an inferiority complex through the use of a personal reference. As a small boy, I was painfully thin. I had lots of energy, was unattractive, was healthy, and hard as nails, but thin. And that bothered me because I didn't want to be thin. I wanted to be fat. I was called skinny, but I didn't want to be called skinny. I wanted to be called fat. I longed to be hardball and tough and fat. I did everything to get fat. I drank cold liver oil, consumed vast numbers of milkshakes, ate thousands of chocolate sundaes with whipped cream and nuts, cakes and pies. Innumerable. But they did not affect me in the slightest. I stayed thin and lay awake nights thinking and agonizing about it. I kept on trying to get heavy until I was about 30. When all of a sudden did I get heavy, I bulged at the seams. Then I became self conscious because I was so fat and finally had to take off 40 pounds with equal agony to get myself down to respectable size. In the second place, I was a minister's son and was constantly reminded of that fact. Everybody else could do everything, but if I did even the slightest little thing, you're a preacher's son. So I didn't want to be a preacher's son. For preacher's sons are supposed to be nice and namby-bamby. I wanted to be known as a hard-boiled fellow. Perhaps that is why preacher's sons get their reputation for being a little difficult, because they rebel against having to carry the banner of the church all the time. I vowed there was one thing I would never do, and that was to become a preacher. Also, I came of a family practically every member of which was a performer in public, a platform speaker, and that was the last thing I wanted to be. They used to make me get up in public to make speeches when it scared me to death, even filled with me with terror. That was years ago, but the twinge of it comes to me every now and then when I walk into a platform. I had to use every known device to develop confidence in what powers the good Lord gave me. I found the solution of this problem in the simple techniques of faith taught in the Bible. These principles are scientific and sound and can heal any personality of the pain of inferiority feelings. Their use can enable the sufferer to find and release the powers which have been inhibited by a feeling of inadequacy. Such are some of the sources of the inferiority complex which erect power barriers in our personalities. It is some emotional violence done to us in childhood or the consequences of a certain circumstances or some things we did to ourselves. This malady arises out of the misty past in the dim recesses of our personalities. Perhaps you had an older brother who was a brilliant student. He got A's in school. You made only C's. And you never heard the last of it. So you believed that you could never succeed in life as he could. He got A's and you got C's. So you reasoned that you were consigned to getting C's all your life. Apparently, you never realized that some of those who failed to get high grades in school have been the greatest successes outside of school. Just because somebody gets an A in college doesn't make him the greatest man in the United States, because maybe his A's will stop when he gets his diploma. And the fellow who got C's in school will go on to later get the real A's in life. The greatest secret for eliminating the inferiority complex, which is another term for deep and profound self doubt, is to fill your mind to overflowing with faith. Develop a tremendous faith in God, and that will give you a humble yet soundly realistic faith in yourself. The acquiring of dynamic faith is accomplished by prayer, lots of prayer, by reading and mentally absorbing the Bible, and by practicing its faith techniques. In another chapter, I deal with specific formulas of prayers. But I want to point out here that the type of prayer that produces the quality of faith required to eliminate inferiority is of a particular nature. Surface skimming, formalistic, and perfunctory prayer is not sufficiently powerful. A wonderful colored woman, a cook in the home of my friends in Texas, was asked how she so completely mastered her trouble. She answered that ordinary problems could be met by ordinary prayers, that when a big trouble comes along, you have to pray deep prayers. One of my most inspiring friends was the late Harlow B. Andrews of Syracuse, New York, one of the best businessmen and competent spiritual experts I ever knew. He said the trouble with most prayers is that they aren't big enough. To get anywhere with faith, said he, learn to pray big prayers. God will rate you according to the size of your prayers. Doubtless he was right, for the scriptures says, according to your faith, be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. So the bigger your problem, the bigger your prayer should be. Roland Hayes, the singer, quoted his grandfather to me, a man whose education was not equal to that of his grandson, but whose native wisdom was obviously sound. He said, the trouble with lots of prayers is they ain't got no suction. Drive your prayers deep into your doubts, fears, inferiorities. Pray deep, big prayers that have plenty of suction, and you will come up with powerful and vital faith. Go to a competent spiritual advisor and let him teach you how to have faith. The ability to possess and utilize faith and gain the release of powers it provides are skills, and like any skills, must be studied and practiced to gain perfection. At the conclusion of this chapter, I listed 10 suggestions for overcoming your inferiority pattern and for developing faith. Practice these rules diligently, and they will aid you in developing confidence in yourself by dissipating your feelings of inferiority, however deeply embedded. At this point, however, I wish to indicate that to build up feelings of self confidence, the practice of suggesting confident concepts to your mind is very effective. If your mind is obsessed with by thoughts of insecurity and inadequacy, of course, due to the fact that such ideas have dominated your thinking over a long period of time, another and more positive pattern of ideas must be given the mind, and that is accomplished by repetitive suggestion or confidence ideas. In the busy activities of daily existence, thought discipline is required if you are to re-educate the mind and make of it a powerful producing plant. It is possible, even in the midst of your daily work, to drive confident thoughts into subconsciousness. Let me tell you about a man who did so by the use of a unique method. One icy winter morning, he called for me at a hotel in the Midwestern city to take me about 35 miles to another town to fill a lecture engagement. We got into his car and started off at a rather high rate of speed on the slippery road. He was going a little faster than I thought reasonable, and I reminded him that we had plenty of time and suggested that we take it easy. Don't let my driving worry you, he replied. I used to be filled with all kinds of insecurities myself, but I got over them. I was afraid of everything. I feared an automobile trip or an airplane flight, and if any of my family went away, I worried until they returned. I always went around with a feeling that something was going to happen, and it made my life miserable. I was saturated with inferiority and lacked confidence. This state of mind reflected itself in my business, and I wasn't doing very well. But I hit upon a wonderful plan which knocked all these insecurity feelings out of my mind. And now I live with a feeling of confidence, not only in myself, but in life generally. This was the wonderful plan. He pointed to two clips fastened on the instrumental panel of the car just below the windshield, and reaching into the glove compartment, took out a pack of small cards. He selected one and slipped it beneath the clip. It read, "If ye have faith, nothing shall be impossible unto you." He removed that one, shuffled expertly through the cards with one hand as he drove, selected another and placed it under the clip. This one read, "If God be for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8:31. "I'm a traveling salesman," he explained, "and I drive around all day calling on my customer. I have discovered that while a man drives, he thinks all kinds of thoughts. If his pattern of thought is negative, he will think many negative thoughts during the day, and that, of course, is bad for him. But that is the way I used to be. I used to drive around all day between calls and drinking fear and defeat thoughts. And incidentally, that is one reason my sales were down. But since I've been using these cards as I drive and committing the words to memory, I've learned to think differently. The only insecurities that used to haunt me are just about all gone. And instead of drinking few thoughts of defeat and ineffectiveness, I think thoughts of faith and courage. It is really wonderful the way this method has changed me. It has helped in my business too. For how can one expect to make a sale if he drives up to a customer's place of business thinking he's not going to make a sale? This plan used by my friend is a very wise one. By filling his mind with affirmations of the presence, support, and help of God, he had actually changed his thought processes. He put an end to the domination of his long held sense of insecurity. His potential powers were set free. We build up the feeling of insecurity or security by how we think. If in our thoughts we constantly fix attention upon sinister expectation of dire events that might happen, the result will be constantly to feel insecure. And what is even more serious is the tendency to create by the power of thought the very condition we fear. This salesman actually created positive results by vital thoughts of courage and confidence through the process of placing the cards behind him in his car. His powers, curiously inhibited by a defeat psychology, now flowed out of a personality in which creative attitudes had been stimulated. Lack of self confidence apparently is one of the great problems besetting people today. In a university, a survey was made of 600 students in psychology courses. The students were asked to state their most difficult personal problem. 75% listed lack of confidence. It can safely be assumed that the large proportion is true of population generally. Everywhere you encounter people who are inwardly afraid, who shrink from life, who suffer from a deep sense of inadequacy and insecurity, who doubt their own power. Deep within themselves, they mistrust their ability to meet responsibilities or to grab opportunities. Always they are beset by the vague and sinister fear that something is not going to be quite right. They do not believe that they have in them to be what they want to be, and so they try to make themselves content with something less than of which they are capable. Thousands upon thousands go crawling through life on their hands and knees, defeated and afraid. And in most cases, such frustration of power is unnecessary. The blows of life, the accumulation of difficulties, the multiplication of problems tend to sap energy and leave you spent and discouraged. In such a condition, the true status of your power is often obscured, and a person yields to a discouragement that is not justified by the facts. It is vitally essential to reappraise your personality assets. When done in an attitude of reasonableness, this evaluation will convince you that you are less defeated than you think you are. For example, a man 52 years of age consulted me. He was in great despondency. He revealed utter despair. He said he was all true. He informed me that everything he had built over his lifetime had been swept away. Everything I asked? Everything, he repeated. He was true, he reiterated. I have nothing left at all. Everything is gone. There is no hope, and I am too old to start over again. I have lost all faith. Naturally, I feel sympathetic towards him. But it was evident that his chief trouble was the fact that dark shadows of hopelessness had entered his mind and discolored his outlook, distorting it. Beyond this twisted thinking, his true powers had retreated, leaving him without thought. So, I said, Suppose we take a piece of paper and write down the values you have left. There's no use, he sighed. I haven't had a single thing left. I told and I thought and I told you that I let's just see anyway. Is your wife still with you? Why, yes, of course, and she's wonderful. We have been married for 30 years. She would never leave me no matter how bad things are. All right, let us put that down. Your wife is still with you, and she will never leave you no matter what happens. How about your children? Got any children? Yes, I have three, and they are certainly wonderful. I've been touched by the way they have come to me and say, Dad, we love you, and I'll always stand by you. Well, then, that is number two. Three children who love you and will stand by you. Got any friends? Yes, I really have some fine friends. I must admit they have been pretty decent. They have come around and said they would like to help me. But what can they do? They can't do anything. That is number three. You have some friends who would like to help you and who hold you in esteem. How about your integrity? Have you done anything wrong? My integrity is all right. I have always tried to do the right thing and my conscience is clear. All right, we'll put that down as number four, integrity. How about your health? My health is all right. I've had very few sick days, and I guess I'm in pretty good shape physically. So let's put down as number five, good physical health. How about the US? Do you think it's still doing business and it is the land of opportunity? Yes, it is the only country in the world I would want to live in. That is number six. You live in the United States, land of opportunity, and you are glad to be here. How about your religious faith? Do you believe in God and that God will help you? Yes, I do not think I could have gone through this at all if I hadn't had some help from God. Now, let's list the assets we have figured out. 1. A wonderful wife, married for 30 years. 2. 3 devoted children who will stand by you. 3. Friends who will help you and who hold you in esteem. 4. Integrity, nothing to be ashamed of. 5. Good physical health. 6. Live in the United States, the greatest country in the world. 7. Have religious faith. I shoved it across the table at him. Take a look at that. I guess you have quite a total of assets. I thought you told me everything had been swept away. He grinned ashamedly. I guess I didn't think of those things. I never thought of it this way. Perhaps things aren't so bad as that, he said pensively. Maybe I can start all over again if I can get some confidence, if I can get the feel of some power within me. Well, he got it. And he did start all over again, but he did so only when he changed his viewpoint, his mental attitude. Faith swept away his doubts, and more than enough power to overcome all his difficulties emerged from him. This incident illustrates a profound truth which is expressed in a very important statement made by the famous psychiatrist Dr. Carl Menninger. He said, attitudes are more important than facts. That is worth repeating until its truth grips you. And in fact, facing us, however difficult, even seemingly hopeless, is not so important as our attitude toward that fact. How you think about a fact may defeat you before you ever do anything about it. You may permit a fact to overwhelm you mentally before you start to deal with it actually. On the other hand, a confident and optimistic thought pattern can modify or overcome the fact altogether. I know a man who is tremendous asset to his organization, not because of his extraordinary ability, but because he invariably demonstrated a triumphant thought pattern. Perhaps his associates view a proposition pessimistically, so he employs what he calls the vacuum cleaner method. That is, by a series of questions, he sucks the dust out of his associate's mind. He draws out their negative attitude, then quietly he suggests positive ideas concerning the proposition until a new set of attitudes gives them a new concept of the facts. They often comment upon different facts appear when this man goes to work on them. It's the confidence attitude that makes the difference. Nor does this rule out objectively in an appraisal of facts. The inferiority complex victim sees all facts through discolored attitudes. The secret of correction is simply to gain a normal view, and that is always slanted on the positive side. So if you feel you are defeated and have lost confidence in your ability to win, sit down, take a piece of paper, and make a list. Not of the factors that are against you, but of those that are for you. If you or I or anybody think constantly of the forces that seem to be against us, we will build them in a power far beyond that which is justified. They will assume a formidable strength which they do not actually possess, But if, on the contrary, you mentally visualize and affirm and reaffirm your assets and keep your thoughts on them, emphasizing them to the fullest extent, you will rise out of any difficulty regardless of what it may be. Your inner powers will reassert themselves and, with the help of God, lift you from defeat to victory. Now, Emerson declared a tremendous truth. They conquer who believe they can. And he added, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Practice confidence and faith, and your fears and insecurities will soon have no power over you. The secret is to fill with your mind with thoughts of faith, confidence, and security. This will force out or expel all thoughts of doubt, all lack of confidence. To one man who for a long time had been haunted by insecurities and fear, I suggested that he read through the Bible, underlining in red pencil every statement it contains relative to courage and confidence. He also committed them to memory, in effect, cramming his mind full of the healthiest, happiest, most powerful thoughts in the world. These dynamic thoughts changed him from cringing hopelessness to a man of compelling force. The change in him in a few weeks was remarkable. For almost complete defeat, he became a confident and inspiring personality. He now radiates courage and magnetism. He regained confidence in himself and his own powers by a simple process of thought conditioning. To sum up, what you can do now to build up your self-confidence, following are 10 simple workable rules for overcoming inadequacy attitude and learning to practice faith. Thousands have used these rules, reporting successful results. Undertake this program and you too will build up confidence in your power. You too will have a new feeling of power. Number one, formulate and stamp indelibly on your mental mind a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. Hold this picture tenaciously. Never permit it to fade. Your mind will seek to develop this picture. Never think yourself as failing. Never doubt the reality of the mental picture. That is most dangerous, for the mind always tries to complete what is pictured. So always picture yourself as a successful person, no matter how badly things seem to be going at the moment. Two, whenever a negative thought concerning your personal powers comes to mind, deliberately voice a positive thought to cancel it out. Do not build obstacles in your imagination. That's number three. Depreciate every so called obstacle, minimize them. Difficulties must be studied and eventually dealt with to be eliminated. But they must be seen only for what they are. They must be not inflated by few thought. Number four, do not be awestruck by other people and try to copy them. Nobody can be you as efficiently as you can. Remember also that most people, despite a confident appearance and demeanor, are often as scared as you are and as doubtful of themselves. 5. 10 times a day, repeat these dynamic words. If God be for us, who can be against us? Number 6, get a competent counselor to help you understand why you do what you do. Learn the origin of your inferiority and self doubt feelings, which often begin in childhood. Self knowledge leads to a cure. 7. 10 times each day. Practice the following affirmation, repeating it out loud if possible. If I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me, repeat those words now. That magic statement is the most powerful antidote on earth to inferiority thoughts. 8. Make a true estimate of your own ability, then raise it 10%. Do not become egotistical, but develop a wholesome self-respect. Believe in your own God-released power. Number 9. Put yourself in God's hand. To do that, simply state, I am in God's hand, then believe you are now receiving all the power you need. Feel it flowing into you. Affirm that in the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21, in the form of adequate power to meet life's demand. Number 10, remind yourself that God is with you and nothing can defeat you. Believe that you now receive power from Him. And that is the end of the excerpt. This one was pretty long. I'm sorry, it was kind of long winded, but I think it's important to. This chapter is brilliant. And first, I would like to start by saying, don't you guys have to, unless you're Christian, obviously you don't have a problem with this chapter. But if you're not Christian or if you're a follower of a different religion, don't take this religious talk too seriously. And by that, I mean, like, just because there's a lot of Christ, there's a lot of Bible quotes and prayers, etc., is not important. It's not important because the essence is the faith you have in life, the universe, in yourself. In the faith in whatever you want to place your faith onto. That's the most important thing. So if you have an issue with the God this, God this, God this, universe this, replace God with another word, with Allah, or whatever, Buddha, universe, life, etc., yourself. It's just a matter of cultivating the essence of the words instead of like reading the words and having an interpretation that it is bad because of this religion, is not good because of this religion. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have to be tolerant about the word. The essence is the teaching, not the teaching is the essence. The words don't matter so much. It's what you do with the words. So I really like this chapter because it is very, very much a practical chapter, because it encourages you to actually believe in yourself and believing that you have more than you actually think you have. I really like the part where he talks about the man who thought he had nothing, and he made him do the list of what assets he actually have in his life. And I think we live a lot of our lives thinking that we don't have much, but when we do focus and we do focus on what we actually have, we start looking at the things we have taken for granted, and we can actually see that we have much more than we actually think we have. And that's an amazing feeling, and from there on out you can have more. And that's where gratitude, he didn't use this word, but that's what he meant, is like to focus on your asset more and more, is the gratitude part of not taking things for granted and being appreciative of what once you have this attitude of gratitude, by always being happy with what we already have, it will be much easier to accumulate, quote unquote, more of what you want. And to accumulate more of what you want, that's one of his point, and one of the main point is to actually do not let any self-defeating thought enter your mind. And that's crucial. And that's Louise Hay say the same thing, Neville Goddard says the same thing, Joseph Murphy really says the same thing, David Hawkins says the same thing. You have to cancel the negative thoughts as soon as they come in. And that's where that's the bread and butter right there. That's the probably the hardest part of this law of attraction thing, if you will. It is, you do have to have this discipline, because if you practice in the morning and at night, or even 3 times a day, but in between those moments you keep on cultivating negative thoughts, well, you might get a result, yes, but nothing compared to if you were to be consistent from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep. And yes, I'm really being serious. That's what we call a strict mental diet. And he didn't use those words, but that's what he meant. So every time. And for me, I do believe that having a mantra, which in this book is like Bible quotes, if you will, but for you might be other quotes. And I make my own kind of mantra and just keep repeating as a back thought in the back of my mind at all times, and not let any negative thought that I don't want enter without me letting them enter to the door of my mind. So that's very important. That's the concept of guarding your thoughts. So this is the two main points that are the most important for me in this chapter, and I hope you will like them as well. Number one is being aware of everything you have, the assets you already have in your life, and being grateful and not taking them for granted. And number two, that's the most important thing, guard your thoughts. Do not let defeating thoughts enter your mind. Cancel them and replace them as soon as they come in. That's all. Hope you guys like this video. Please like, share, and comment. It does help me grow my channel, and I do appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.